Hello and welcome back to Running on Pixie Dust, my podcast and YouTube series. I am your host, Annika. Go ahead and give me a follow on Instagram at Annika's Paintbrush and keep on track with all the things. I am actually recording this podcast shortly after an event for once in my life, so this is very exciting. Anyways, if you're new here, I started this podcast to align with my Dopey Challenge training for 2023, which was my first marathon as well. Check out episode 0 for the full story, as well as disclaimer, I am not a coach. I'm not affiliated with anyone. I'm just sharing my personal experiences and opinions for fun, literally for no reason other than I just feel like it. Welcome to episode 34. This is going to be such a good one, and it's not necessarily Run Disney related, but it is race related. I had a very, very exciting past couple of weeks, so I was super stoked to pick up the podcast mic and record this episode. I cannot wait to give you all the details. Although if you follow me on Instagram, you basically already know what I'm going to talk about, but let's get into it. Let's start off with the highs and the lows. Starting off with my highs, there have been so many fun holiday things going on. We are into December now, which is kind of crazy. We're like almost to mid-December. Like, what the heck? That's kind of scary. That came so fast. Literally 2024 has actually flown by, and this happens every single year. Every time it's like, where is the time going? I don't know. A little spooky, but time flies when you're having fun, I guess. Most of the year I had fun. But we had Thanksgiving. I stayed here local to Orlando, and I went with some friends to Disney Springs. We had a Thanksgiving lunch at Wine Dine George. A lot of my friends obviously go home to their families during Thanksgiving week to celebrate and getting time off of work and all of that. But I stayed local, and my family will be coming here actually during the Christmas time. So I stayed here with my dog Cinnamon and had a good time. We did our own self-sanctioned turkey trot, and that was fun. We couldn't find one that was close enough, that was like what we were going for, because my friends and I wanted to run more than a 5K, so we didn't really want to go to like a 5K race and then kind of still have to figure out running after. We kind of just wanted to get it over with and get it done and then go and do all the fun things. So a lot of places at Disney Springs actually do Thanksgiving meals. Like they have special holiday menus basically. So Wine Bar George was one of them. I've also gone to City Works in the past because I've been at Disney for Thanksgiving for so many years. Even before living at Disney World, I was usually at Disneyland or Disney World for Thanksgiving. Like that's just how it worked out growing up. So I'm just always here for Thanksgiving. And now that I live here, it's just so normal for me. And I do not cook, and I will not be doing any of that. But I do like the Thanksgiving food, and I like the traditions and pumpkin pie. So there's that. I liked that they had basically all the good Thanksgiving fixins on one plate, and I didn't have to cook or clean. So sounds like a win to me. But that was great. I went with my friends, Shruti and Paul, and we had such a cute time. We got dressed up. We got espresso martinis. We split a bottle of bubbles at the end of the meal, and then we went shopping and just walked it off around Disney Springs, and then we went and saw Moana 2. Y'all, I am such a fan of Moana. I love her. I loved the first movie. My friends and I, when we first saw the first one in theaters, we came home and literally learned the lyrics to You're Welcome immediately, and we could not stop singing it for weeks after we saw that movie. And then we go and see Moana 2. Granted, we saw it at Disney Springs on a holiday in the afternoon where there were many families, and we only saw it in like the laser theater. Like we didn't see it in a Dolby or a dine-in or a recliner or anything. So that affected the experience, I think. It was basically like we were inside of a daycare with lots of families, lots of children, lots of babies, lots of volume, uncomfortable seats. Like, that didn't make the movie going experience much better. And then the movie itself didn't quite live up to my expectations. I know it was supposed to be a show for Disney Plus, I'm pretty sure, and then they changed their minds and decided to make it a movie. And to me, that's pretty apparent in the movie. And I feel like the songs had so much potential, but they just don't hit. And I know Lin-Manuel Miranda did not write the songs for Moana 2. So I was overall very disappointed and bummed. And I've seen opinions of either it's not good or people saying that it's the best movie Disney's ever done. And listen, live your dream. I'm not over there. I'm over here in the, I could have waited for it to come to Disney Plus. But anyway, it was a fun day, at least. It was like a nice activity. I don't think I ever need to go to Disney Springs to see a movie in the middle of the day. At least like a Disney movie that's just coming out. Because it was literally a daycare. A daycare where we were watching this movie. Which I don't know what we expected. Like, we kind of knew going into it that with the time and the location of this movie and the movie itself, like, this is a children's movie. There's going to be kids, but yeah. Anyways, it was a good day, though. It was a really good day. And training overall has been going so well. I am very, very pleased and happy with how training has been going. I have really stuck to my routine, and working with my coach, I think, has put me on just a great path. And I really have not done a full marathon training cycle this intense because last year I was injured. I was out for 7 weeks. And basically, this time last year, I was just trying to get by and just trying to get a couple long runs in before the big show. And Dopey was a week earlier last year as well. So I didn't really get a full training cycle. And then the year before that, it was my first cycle, and I was following the Galloway program, which is fine, and it'll get you there. But I really wanted to improve as a runner, and that was kind of like the whole reason I got my coach. I got my coach originally because I signed up for Dumpy this year for the Dopey to Dumbo Challenge for all of us psychotic people who wanted to do Dopey at Disney World and then go over to Disneyland and do the Dumbo Challenge the weekend right after. And I wanted a coach to help me get through that because I had no idea how to plan. And there's plenty of books out there, and a lot of my friends read the Fitzinger books and the Macmillan plans, and there's all these different methods for marathon training, and there's intermediate marathon training and, half marathon training and then back-to-back marathon training, and it's just a whirlwind. And maybe I'll get to the point where I research enough and get comfortable enough with training to be able to kind of piece together my own plans. But for now, I give everything to my coach, and I'm like, just tell me what to do, which has been working out great. So yeah, I hit 50 miles last week. Was it last week? No, the week before last week. And that is crazy. I have not hit a 50-mile training week. I want to say ever, because even with Dopey, that's 48.6. And I feel like maybe I kind of hit a 50-mile week my first Dopey. It's hard for me to count. I can't even remember if I did. I don't even think I did one of the runs that I was supposed to, because I was completely hungover from New Year's trying to recover from that going into Dopey for my first year. So yeah, I don't even know when I would have hit 50 miles. So that was a huge milestone for me and a major high, and I've been in this routine of building up my mileage gradually and training consistently. And so I'm feeling really good about the routine. And this training cycle has just been going great. Like, it's kind of crazy. I'm in shock, and it's been flying by because I've been so focused on sticking to my training plan, and I have definitely seen the improvements and the benefits, which just gives me more confidence. So yeah, my final high will be the meat of this episode, which is I ran the OUC half marathon in downtown Orlando this past weekend, and hit my major goals, hit a major PR, and basically had the best race ever. So I'm going to dive into that a little bit later, but that's the biggest high and the entire point of this episode, basically. So my lows, I don't really have lows. It's just that I'm exhausted and I go to bed at like 8:30 and I wake up at 5 and do my training. I guess my one low is that I can't sleep in on the days that I have to sleep in, like on my rest days or on days where I can sleep in a little bit earlier. My body is literally like 5:45. We're up. We're awake. Why aren't we getting up? Because also with the training that I'm doing, and I'd like to get my runs done before work, so I do wake up earlier. And I am proactively trying to train my body to like take in water and food and use the bathroom at certain times in the mornings. And so on days where I am not necessarily having to wake up early and do all of those things that I would do for my running routine, my body is like, okay, well, what are we doing? Like, why aren't we up? We have to get up. We need to go to the bathroom. We are thirsty. We are ready for food. Like, because I've trained my body to handle that early in the morning and like consistently day after day, because I've been running 6 days a week. Like, it's kind of crazy. So, I mean, it's kind of a low, but it is also nice to be in a routine where it's not a big deal if I have to wake up at like 5 a.m. or even earlier than that for some of my long runs. And my body is very much used to it. Whereas when I've had other training blocks for my half marathon, I did for a couple of my half marathons that I did earlier this year, where I'm not running as often, where I'm running like maybe like 3 days a week, 4 days a week, it's harder to jump back and forth. Like, it's almost easier to train more, if that makes sense, because it becomes so routine, the daily like wake up time, and you have the consistent time you're going to sleep, consistent time you're waking up. Like, it's easier, which is kind of crazy. It makes sense, but training more is easier than training less. But I'm also the opposite of everyone in science, and I'm weird in that fact, because certain things that go one way for other people don't go that way for me. Am I just rambling now? Okay, anyway, that's my low, is I'm just tired because I'm working my freaking butt off and I'm working so hard, but I'm seeing the results from it. So it's definitely just making me want to work even harder and keep pushing and looking forward to training. Like, I'm honestly surprised that I'm not burnt out. Like, if anything, I have a fire under me, and I am just so excited for marathon weekend. So, I don't know, kind of wild. Okay, let's get into the meat of this episode, which is the OUC half marathon. Now, I only signed up for this half marathon just over a week ago. Like, I signed up the Monday before the race, which was on Saturday. And it's so funny that my running friends and I, we have a bunch of different group chats, and we all talk about like upcoming races or like how we're feeling with training, and we basically just yap in the group chat about anything and everything running related. And a ton of my other friends just hit a bunch of their half marathon PRs and reached their goals that they've been trying to hit, because we've had such cooler weather here in Florida that we're all trying to take advantage of it and see where our fitness is at and push in a race setting to not let this cold weather pass us by, because training in Florida is so hard because of the weather here and because of the heat and humidity. We only get 5 seconds of winter usually, so this is kind of out of the not the norm to have cold fronts last this long, which is crazy. Like, why couldn't we have had this at Wine and Dine? But it has been a lot cooler lately, and it's been great for running because it's so much nicer to run in the cold. It sucks because I'm a little wimp when it comes to cold, but for running, it's so nice to not have to wake up like 2 hours before the sun rises. We can like wait until the sun rises to start our run and not have to base the run around the heat of the day kind of thing, because the weather isn't restricting us. So I don't know. But anyways, my friends wanted to do these races that have been in the past few weeks, and they've all been doing so great. And so then I'm kind of sitting on the sidelines like, I want to do that too. Like, if all my friends are going to jump off the bridge, I want to go jump off the bridge too. And after not hitting my goal half marathon time at Wine and Dine and not hitting my goal half marathon time at the Portland race that I signed up for in July, I was just feeling so vengeful and annoyed and angry. And if you've been following and have been listening to my latest episodes, you know how badly I have been wanting this half marathon goal, and I just have not been able to conquer it. I originally wanted to get a time of sub 2 hours and 8 minutes, and it's this kind of arbitrary time because initially I wanted to get that to submit for proof of time for future dopies. And back when I signed up for my Portland half marathon race, which was back in July, it was ideally going to be what I would run to submit for this coming dopey for 2025. But I didn't reach the goal, so it didn't matter anyway. And I think it was like right after the deadline to submit the proof of time for the marathon weekend anyway. But that was kind of like the whole reasoning of like why I wanted to hit this particular time, was to get me a corral boost for the actual marathon, because you have to submit, I think it's a 10 miler and above. I had my princess proof of time, but I just wanted to shoot for higher because I just wanted to improve, and I've been wanting to focus on running, and I'm paying for a coach, and like I want to set these higher goals for myself. So anyways, that's where that goal came from originally. And now they've changed, proof of time guidelines anyway for Run Disney. So it's just kind of this arbitrary goal that I think still that is still where there are cutoffs for where they place you in your corrals. But like, I don't know. No one really knows. But I still wanted the sub 208, and it had been such a stretch for me. I completely blew up at Portland, and I have the whole episode on that if you have not listened to it already. I did not hit my goal. I did not PR. I just died that race. And I got sick like immediately after. And flash forward to Wine and Dine. I knew that with the weather, it was so hot, there was no way I was going to hit the 208. Like, I could not reach for that. Even though I had been doing weeks of marathon training now, and my fitness had improved, and I felt really good about still having that goal on the horizon. Wine and Dine was just not the time for it. It was a very hot and humid weekend, and I ran the 10K the day prior. The morning of the half marathon, I decided my goal was going to be to shoot for a 2:15, and I couldn't even hit that. It was also just not my day. I hit the 2:18:44, so 2 hours and 18 minutes, 44 seconds, which is still great. It was still a large PR. And if you listen to my last episode, you know that I was still very unhappy with that, and that's not at all how I wanted that race to go. And it was really frustrating. So I had been building up this frustration, feeling like my fitness has improved so much, and I had nothing to show for it, which was really, really frustrating me and angering me. So last second, I had my other friends signed up for this race, and I'm like laughing and smiling because they definitely inspired me. I was like, I I'm going to just take this opportunity and I'm going to go for my goal too, because everyone else is hitting their goals and taking advantage of this weather. Like, why can't I? Like, I really want to do this. So my friend Shruti had signed up for this OUC half marathon, which is, local race, hometown race. And it was on a Saturday with nice weather. And I decided, okay, let me reach out to my coach and see what she says. Because, like, we're in the middle of marathon training. Like, if my coach was going to tell me, like, no, I don't think you should do that, like, just focus on marathon training, then I wouldn't have done it. But she was basically like, well, you can't let your long run slip, but, like, go ahead, I guess. And so decided last minute to sign up. Our other friend Ashley signed up too. And so it was the three of us that were going to run this race and kind of push for our goals. So we moved my speed work around, I think, for the week, because normally I would do my speed work on Thursdays, but we pushed it to Wednesday so that I would have enough time to rest before the race. And I took a rest day on Friday so that I could have fresh legs for the race on Saturday. And leading up to it, I was really, really nervous. I wasn't fully sure I was going to shoot for the 208 still, but I knew, like, in my heart that I, like, really wanted to go for this goal still. So it didn't really feel that in reach, even though my fitness has been doing really well and has improved so much, and I've been feeling good and been able to push through a lot of my workouts and runs because of the troubles I had reaching that goal for my past 2 half marathons that I tried to reach it. I was so nervous about it. Like, on Friday, my stomach was in knots literally all day, and I make wallpapers of my split times and my elapsed time for the race to help me gauge where I'm at each of the mile markers, because my Garmin will be off for the mileage because I gain mileage in the race, like weaving around people, and you just gain extra mileage. So my watch wasn't going to match up exactly with the mile markers. So I usually make wallpapers for my phone so that I can look at the elapsed time and see where I'm at and make sure I'm on pace to finish, like, with the finish time that I want. And I decided to make one for this race, and then I put in the 208 time, and I said, okay, like, it is what it is. Like, let's try and go for it. Like, I really want to push for it, but it's gonna depend on the day and how I'm feeling. So Friday, I was just so insanely nervous because I was trying not to put too much pressure on myself about it, but at the same time, I wanted it so badly. And I knew my training had been going so well, and that marathon weekend was probably going to be pretty good for me, and I did not want to PR my half marathon on the marathon. I wanted to have, like, a standalone half marathon PR. I felt capable of reaching this goal going into it. So I was too, like, nervous to cook, and, like, my stomach literally hurt all day, but, like, not from, like, a food way, in, like, a stressed way. And, like, I was so anxious that I was, like, literally, like, shaky. I had no appetite, but, like, I was still trying to force down fluids and food because, like, hello, we're running a half marathon. You got a carb load, especially when I'm going to race it. Like, I'm going to be exerting a lot more energy. And so, like, I really got to fuel up. But I ended up getting Taco Bell for dinner because I, like, could not cook anything, and, like, the meals that I had just were not what I wanted as my pre-race meal. And all reliable, the potato tacos from Taco Bell, those sit perfectly in my stomach. Who would have thought? And it's lots of carbs. So I said, okay, sure. We made a plan to carpool to the race on Saturday, and Shruti's husband Paul was gonna drop us off and then figure out, like, his parking situation and, like, go spectate for us and, like, support Shruti and us as well. And it was gonna be fine. However, we all were so dumb about this. We did not get there early enough. Like, none of us thought that, like, hey, maybe we should think about this and, like, see where we're at for this race, for the timing. But I think Shruti and Ashley had done the race before, but I think they, like, changed the course from last year. So I don't know. I was just following their lead. I was just like, la, la, la. I I don't know where I am. I don't know anything about this race. Like, I just signed up for this week and I don't know what's going on. So someone help. And I think we got there at like 6:35-ish, 6:35 a.m. The race started at 7:15. And like, we kind of thought that would be enough time. I don't really know why we thought that would be enough time. It was not enough time. So we get dropped off. We don't know where the start is. We had to like walk around Lake Eola a little bit. And people with like race gear kind of, and like people in running shoes and people who look like runners and people who are running the race, they were going both directions. So we were like, so we go right, and we started walking one way and we were like, no, it's actually this way. And then so we were just like lost. We could not find the start of this race. And so we finally find like the right area, and we still had to pick up our bibs. We still had to go to gear check. We still had to use the bathroom. We still had to warm up. And then we still had to find where the start was, because we found like where the tents are and like this very large park area that had like booths for the finish, for like the post-race partying, I guess. But we had to walk like quite a ways to go find where the bib pickup was. And so we had to wait in line for that. We got our bibs and we're just like frantic, and it's freezing, mind you. Like, it was really cold. I don't know if it was in the 40s, which, you know, for us Floridians, that's a blizzard. That's freezing. So I had like my warm-ups on. I decided to wear a tank top, shorts, and I wore arm sleeves that Becca let me borrow because she had a couple pairs that I really liked, and I tried to order some, but they didn't get here in time, so I like borrowed hers. Anyways, it was perfect racing weather though. So I had warm-ups on top of that though, because it was still dark when we got there, but it was going to be light and like a little bit slightly warmer when we started. So I had warm-ups on. I had a Mylar blanket. We had gloves on, which like having gloves on, just like you can't do anything with your hands. Like this was just so chaotic. So we get our bibs, you know, you get the pins, and I like was shoving them in my pocket, and we were just literally like frantic. We were like, we got to get the bib. We got to go to gear check now, because at this point it's 6:45 and we have 30 minutes till the race starts. And we are just now getting our bibs. So we're like, okay. And then we had to figure out where gear check was and then go get in that line. And by this time, I think it's like 7. It is 7 a.m. maybe. And I don't know how this like all took so long, but I kept looking down at my watch and it's like, Jesus, it's after 7 already. Like, what are we doing? And we weren't like lollygagging in any way. Like, we had to go bib. Okay, let's go. We went to gear check and we had no time. Like, I bring my massage gun and I wanted to like warm up my muscles because I just have to do that before I run. And so like as we were in line for gear check, I'm like ripping off my like pajama pants that I brought that I was gonna wear for throwaway clothes. But I was like, nope, we're gear checking everything. Like, just get ready to run. Basically, like I had all my gels in my backpack and I didn't have them on me yet because like I thought I would have time to like get the things I needed out of my backpack, pack my fuel, and like just get ready. But like there was not time for that. So as the gear check line is moving, I'm like having all this stuff. I have my backpack and my bib on the ground and like my Mylar blanket, and just like frantically moving up in line and like picking up stuff, and I couldn't do anything. And I had to take my gloves off, but it was so cold that like your hands are numb. So like you just can't move very fast, and like hands aren't working very well. And like and it was the three of us doing, like, we couldn't help each other because we were all frantically doing the same thing, trying to like get the bib on and like connect everything and do all that. So I quickly like grabbed my massage gun, like in line. I was like hitting the legs really quick, ripping the pants off, like, okay, getting my gels out. I wore my bandit tank top that had gel pockets in the back, which is really cool. I love this tank top, and I finally got a chance to like wear it during actual race. And so I packed my gels back there, and I decided to keep my gloves on. I just had throwaway gloves. I ordered a big pack from Amazon for Dopey, and so I just like kind of grabbed one of those, and I was like, all right, I'll just throw these out during the race, because I definitely wanted gloves for the start because I have really cold hands, and I put hand warmers in there, which I'm really glad I did that. And then I knew I was just going to toss them because I did not want to carry them. And I'm, depending on the weather for marathon weekend, I'm probably going to do the same thing there, because I have been liking not carrying anything, just running naked basically. I did not do a hydration vest for this race, and I really liked that. And I didn't even do a handheld water bottle, and I really liked it. It worked out really well for me, and I think the timing for all that worked out. But anyways, we're still at the start of the race, because I have to paint this picture for you how chaotic this was. We do the gear check. Okay, we got the gear check done. Cool. We still don't have the bib on. I have the safety pins like shoved at the bottom of my pocket, like underneath where my gels that I just like shoved in my pocket. And I'm holding my Mylar, and I have a water bottle that I was going to throw away with my Martin 160 like carb drink mix, plus I mixed liquid IV in there. And so I was drinking that as my like pre-race fuel, where normally I might have a gel before the race starts, like, you know, get the fuel going. But I decided to just do the Martin and then just toss the bottle before the race started, which worked out really well. I think that was perfect. But mind you, we still got all this stuff, and like I'm just overwhelmed because my hands are full and I can't get my bib on, but we're still running from one location to the other. And we were all like, okay, well, we have to go to the bathroom. Like we can't start the race without going to the bathroom. And we go to where the porta potties are. Of course, there's long lines, so we just get in line. And at this point, it is 7:15. It is 7:15, and we are in line for the bathrooms. The race starts at 7:15. The race started. Like, the announcers, they're going. The race is going on, and we are in line for the porta potties, nowhere near the start line. And bibs aren't on. So we're sitting in line, warming up. I'm like throwing stuff on the ground and like frantically trying to pin the bib. And it was just like, my hands were so numb. My shirt was really thick, and these safety pins were so dull. So I was literally like jabbing it into my shirt, and it wasn't going in. And so we were all just like so anxious, like on the verge of panic attacks, that we were so late for this race. And like it was almost better this way, because we didn't have time to stress over the race going well. We were all just like trying to make it to the race at this point. And we were all having panic attacks, and Truthy was looking at me like, should we just do a dead last start? Like, I could read it in her face. She was already like defeated, and I was trying to keep up a good mentality because she was going for a very hard sub-2 time goal for this race, and we got to keep the morale high. So I was like, no, it's okay. We'll start when we start. And me talking her down, which was also talking me down. And we're all spread out in this porta potty line, like figuring this out, and literally doing warm-ups. I was like doing my squats and my lunges, like as we're in line moving forward for the porta potties. And we finally use the bathroom. We come out. I'm doing a little jog around the tree to warm up, because originally we wanted to do like a 1.5 mile warm up and like actually do full warm ups and like to be ready for this race, especially with it being so cold. And this is very cold for us Floridians. Like in the 40s, that is cold. And I was in shorts and a tank top because that's what I wanted to race in, and it was perfect, honestly. But again, my body was cold, and we were all going for fast racing times for us, like reaching our goals. And so like it was stressful to not be as warmed up as like we wanted to be. So we finally get all that done. We get the bibs on. We're ready to go. Okay. And we're now walking towards the start line, trying to like figure out where it is. We're now at the back of the pack. I think I didn't really pay attention to like the pace groups by us, but Shruti said that we were starting with a 3-hour pace group, which all of us were running 2 hours, less than 2 hours, and maybe 2 hours and some change. So we were like very much starting not with the right group. And mind you, there was also a 5K going on. There were 5K racers starting at the same time, and on the course, the 5K splits eventually from the half marathon runners. But we're also like starting together. I think we all started together. I don't know. But it was all very crowded. We were just like shuffling in, and we were like, okay, here we go. We're going. Like, we are going. It is 7:20 now, and we're making our way there. And we all started together at the same time. And I guess the tracking like didn't pick up my start time. So my tracking that like my friends were watching, my friend Becca was spectating, she like noticed that it didn't pick up my start time. And so my tracking was off the entire race, which I'm glad I didn't know that. But all my friends who were rooting for me could not track my accurate timing. But it's fine because my official time came through. But anyways, we finally start the race. After stress and chaos and running, we finally get there. All right. Now let's talk about the meat of this race. I'm going to give you a play-by-play because I do that here. This is my podcast and I give as much detail as I want. So, okay, let's do the race now. My racing plan was for the sub 208 time. That's about an average of a 9:46 pace. So 9 minutes and 46 seconds per mile. I use the Find My Marathon website to put together goal splits. Basically, it breaks it down mile by mile and it has the elapsed time next to it. And that's what I would use for my wallpapers. And I wanted to start the race off a little bit slower than my goal pace and then pick it up later on to try and go for not necessarily negative splits because I don't think that's entirely necessary, but I do like the more even splits, but you never want to start too fast. So mile 1, my goal time was a 9:55 pace to take it a little bit slower and not start too fast because I don't want to blow up and I don't want to burn out like I did for my other races. So I did something new this race where I did not program a workout or set pace goals on my Garmin like I have done before. This time I just used the lap pace watch face, which it tells you for that lap, so for that mile, what your pace is pretty much, which I don't normally use. I normally just use like the regular watch face, which just tells you like the pace that you're running at right that at that time. And so I've always just kind of gauged it off of that, but I don't know what I was thinking. Why have I not been using lap pace this whole time? Because it's so much better. Because it doesn't matter what pace I'm running currently. To me, it matters what time I'm running the mile at. So it will tell me what my lap pace is going to be based off of how I'm running. So I started off probably pretty fast. I don't actually know what my pace was going out on the start line, but it was definitely probably faster than my goal pace. And so I looked at my lap pace and it showed like a fast time. And so I slowed down to make it move to where the lap pace where I wanted it to be, which worked out so nice. Like, I don't know what I've been doing my whole life. Why have I not been doing that? Because if I'm running my anticipated like goal pace and I look down and that's the pace I'm running right now, if I slow down or speed up, then I can't really tell what my mile pace is going to be until until it beeps and shows me my mile time after I've completed it, in which case I can't change anything at that point. So that's the major thing that I did differently this race. So I hit the 9:55 for my mile 1. I was perfectly on target. Perfect. And Shruti took off because she was going for a sub 2 time and she was a speed demon and was doing her thing. Ashley and I were kind of running at the same pace. And so then we accidentally just kind of ran most of the race together and we ended up pacing each other and leapfrogging for most of it, which ended up being my saving grace and worked out so well because all of us were we're all having our own goal and we're all just having our own race and we'll see you at the finish line kind of thing. Like, good luck, go get them kind of thing. So around mile 2 and 3, I think Ashley had been running a little bit faster than what I had for my goal on my elapsed time. And so I was like, okay, it's fun running next to her though. So I was like, let me see if I can keep up with her and see how long I can hold on to it. Because I think had she not been there, I would have been holding back more to stay right on my elapsed time or with slower miles at the start. rather than like pushing it a little bit earlier on and taking that risk. So she pushed me so much and it ended up working out in my favor. My splits, let me actually pull them up. And this is according to Garmin on Strava, so this isn't entirely accurate for the mile splits on the race because, again, I had to weave around so many people because we started in the wrong group. And there was just like a lot of people, I don't know, that just didn't know how to exist in a race, which always happens. And you have to anticipate always have to going around people and weaving, but that adds so much distance. And so then my watch got off really, really quickly and I couldn't really tell like where I was at. But my mile 1 was, I think my Garmin had said 9:55, but Strava said 9:56, whatever, close enough, same thing. Mile 1 was that. Mile 2 was 9:41, and that was a little bit faster, I think, than I had anticipated for my mile 2. But I was like, okay, like I feel really good. And I was so numb for the first 2 miles. I was just cold that I was like, okay, I mean, I can't feel any pain. So let's go. And I'm going to see if I can hold this. If I can't, then like I'm already a little bit ahead of my goal time. Like if I had to slow down a little bit, like I have some leeway. So I was like, okay. Mile 3, I hit a 9:35. And I was like, I mean, I'm feeling good. Like let's stick with it. So mile 4, I hit a 9:37. Mile 5, I hit a 9:27. So we were like picking it up a little bit. I took my first gel, I think, after mile 3 and stopped briefly at the water stop and took a salt pill. So I tried to time it, like take the gel, swallow the gel, finish the gel, and then put the salt pill in my mouth ready for the water. And so I would grab the water, take the salt pill, drink a little bit of water, walk for like a few seconds, a few steps just to drink the water, and then toss the water and then just like kept running. I didn't set any intervals. I wasn't following any set intervals or anything. I just was planning on using the water stops as walk breaks, which worked out perfectly. So first 5K done. I'm feeling really good. Mile 4 was the 9:37. Mile 5 was the 9:27. I was still feeling good, like okay, but I knew I could feel good for the 10K. For the first 10K of the race. We knew we could do that because I've already done that at my goal pace. And granted, even though this was slightly faster than my goal half marathon pace, I knew that there was going to be a fight after the mile 6 mark. So I was trying to like keep that in mind. Mile 5, 9:27. Mile 6 was 9:23. Picked it up a little bit, and I think my elevation went down a little bit, so I think we had a little bit of a downhill, which gave me a little boost. And there weren't many bricks because this race was in downtown Orlando. It's a lot of bricks in the roads. There weren't many bricked areas early on in the race. Like there were some cement portions next to the bricks where you could kind of run on. So I tried to stay on that and like the flatter portions, which was good. We hit the 10K mark. I took another gel. I used all Huma gels. And I think I did the same thing, planning with the water stop, took the gel, took the salt pill about every 30 minutes. So that was, for me, was after mile 6. Hit the 10K mark. I did hit a 10K PR according to Garmin. Not my official, like, 10K time for the race, because, again, my mileage was off, but we hit the 10K PR at 58 minutes and 14 seconds, averaging 9:22 a mile, and now I knew that this is where I have blown up in both my races that I've done this year trying to get this goal. So, mentally, I was kind of preparing for that. I built my Spotify playlist to be an hour of all of my best like pump up songs that I have on my Desperation Marathon playlist. If you remember that I've talked about that before on the podcast, that anytime I have like a really good pump up song, I will add it to my Desperation playlist that I started after my first marathon to only have like the best pump up running songs. But this time I like specifically curated this playlist for this race. So I made an hour of like the songs that I was feeling. And then I decided for the second hour, I was going to do the new Big Booty Mix, Volume 25, which if you don't know what Big Booty Mix is, look it up. But also, it's like a mashup of all different kinds of songs, and it's very upbeat, very fast tempo, and great to do speed work too. I always save the Big Booty Mixes for like speed work days, and they're usually an hour long, so that's perfect. I knew for the first hour, I was like, okay, we can take it slow if we need to, but Big Booty is going to take us to this finish line. And so I tried to time it perfectly, like first hour, good, and then have enough time for Big Booty to take me all the way home. So it's Big Booty time at this point. And mile 7, I hit a 9:27. Mile 8, I hit a 9:23. Mile 9, I hit a 9:23. This was kind of outrageous, and I kept looking at my watch, and I had that feeling of negative splitting. So I would kind of see what my mile time was for the last mile, and then I'd try and hold on to that pace and see if I could push it just ever so slightly more, which worked out pretty well. I was holding pretty steady, and mile 10, I think we had a big downhill, and I was just feeling really good. Like I got like a second wind kind of thing around mile 10, and I hit a 9:15, which was my fastest mile of the whole race, which was kind of crazy. But after mile 10, that's when not necessarily the pain came in, but that's where the bricks came in. Mile 11, the bricks were going on for quite a while, like on these roads, and the course had quite a few turns as well. So we're running on this brick. It's super uneven. There were like potholes. There were like jagged bricks everywhere. There wasn't any like real relief from it. So that was really, really hard on my feet. Like my feet felt great up to that point. They kind of started hurting though from just the uneven bricks. And my quads were on fire, not only from just pushing this pace. And like it's a pretty flat course, but there were some like baby hills. But then add in the bricks. It was just painful and never ending. So that was rough because like I honestly felt like for the last 5K of the race, like I was mentally prepared to pick it up a notch and like really race the last 5K and kind of empty the tank. But every time I tried to pick up the pace a little bit on these bricks, like I would look down and my pace wouldn't change. I was fighting the bricks, but they were fighting back. Like, I did not win that fight. So I was expelling, like, more energy, but not gaining anything from it. I felt like I was running faster, and then I would look down, and I actually had gained a couple seconds on my pace. I was like, oh, how nice. Okay, cool. So my mile 11 was 9:25, and I think we gained a little bit of elevation there, just a little bit. There was, like, a little bricky hill, which was kind of annoying. Mile 12, I hit 9:33. I was kind of in the pain cave at this point. Like my quads were on fire. I had a little bit of a side stitch the last mile, and I like was ready for the race to be done. But again, I wanted to pick it up for the last mile, but there was a lot of brick and there were a couple of turns. And at that point, I was pretty tired. I'm pretty tired now. My mile 13 was a 9:31, and then I really only could pick it up for that like last turn of the race, like right after we hit mile 13, the last 0.1 in the finish chute is where I felt like I could actually pick it up, but it's such a short distance that it really doesn't make a huge difference. But according to Strava, my like 0.2 distance was at an 8:48 pace. So I definitely got a boost from the finish line, and I heard Chris Galloway say my name as I was coming into the finish line, so that was really, really cool. And I had not been watching my elapsed time. I did not check my phone once. I did not look down at the wallpaper. I didn't even like pull my phone out. I pulled it out once to take a video early on in the race at like mile 1, but I did not check my times at all. All I knew was my lap pace and my mile pace based on Garmin, and not where I was on the mile markers on the course. So I knew the pace was faster than my goal pace. So I knew I had hit the sub 208, but I just didn't know anything else. Like I didn't know my actual finish time. So as I crossed the finish line, I obviously stopped my Garmin like right after I passed where the chip scanners are. And there's even like a photo pass picture of me like with my hand on my Garmin like hitting the stop, which was funny. But didn't know my time until I clicked stop, and then I saw that I hit the 205 and I basically about died. But I knew from mile 2 that like this was my race. And I know what a good PR race feels like. And it wasn't Wine and Dine. And that's why I was so angry, even though I hit a PR at the 2 with a time of 2:18:44 at the Wine and Dine half marathon. I was so angry about it because it was so shitty. And I did not feel good. Whereas this race, mile 2, I was like, I have this. I just have to keep pace for this race. And I have this in the bag. So it was probably the best race I've ever had. Like it was very much like perfect weather. My body felt good. I felt so strong. I powered through this race, and it was just like kind of, I was flying the whole time. And I didn't feel completely wiped either. Like I honestly think without the bricks at the end, I could have picked it up a little bit more and like maybe empty the tank a little bit more. But I mean, even still, like I set out to reach a sub 208 and I did it. Finally. Spoiler alert, though, I already posted it on Instagram and I basically lost my mind. But when I finished, I went to like meet my friends, and I found Becca, who was spectating for us and taking like fun pictures. And I was like, oh my gosh, like what was my official time? Like, because I don't know. I didn't have it on my phone. And like she already had like the website up. So I was like, oh, like just like tell me what I got. Like, what does it say? And she was like, it didn't pick up your start time. She's like, the tracking is well off. I was like, what? All that? I hit my goal and you're telling me that it didn't pick up the chip on my bib? What? So then I was freaking out a little bit, but I was like, no, this is put on my Track Shack. Like they have safety measures for these kinds of things. Like there's some way we're going to get my official time. And so we went to the Track Shack booth and we're talking to the guys, and they were like, no, the tracking's different. You got to go to the official race results, which like, how does that make sense? Why is tracking different than like the time? I don't understand why it's separate, but you had to like scan the QR code to like pull up the official time and then like type in your bib and everything. And then it pulled it up, and then I saw the net time of 2:05:30. So not only did I reach my goal, I completely obliterated it. Like 3 minutes under where I was actually shooting for. And I hit a 13-minute PR from my Wine Dine race, which was the 2:18. And I was fighting for that 2:18, man. I was dying. And then I come out here a month later and I get 2:05. Kind of crazy. It literally doesn't feel real. Like I was absolutely shocked. I was so happy, and like we all hit our goals, which I think was the best part. Like my friends and I, like we all got to do that together, and we all hit our goals, which was great. I think that's also why I was like putting pressure on myself, was because we all had very specific goals, and we were preemptively kind of planning celebratory meetups after, like later in the weekend, and we were like telling all of our other runner friends like, hey, we're running this race, and like we were all pretty open like about our running goals and like the times that we wanted. So it's like it's out in the open. So like if you don't hit it, everyone knows. And if you're the one person out of the group who doesn't hit it, like that sucks. So that was honestly motivating too, because all of us were like, we have to hit it now. We've already spoken it into existence. All of our friends know, and all of our friends are planning to celebrate, like with us, to celebrate our PRs. And if you don't hit it, it's going to be sad. So, but thankfully we all did. And that was like just the icing on the cake and just such an out of body experience. I just, like, even looking at it, like, I can't even believe like those are my splits. Like, I had sub 10-minute miles for 13 miles. Consecutive miles. Like, that is crazy to me. I think I've just come such a long way, and I think my coach had posted on Instagram that in 2022, I think I had like a 3-hour half marathon time or something. So just like seeing how far I've come to being like very much back of the packer, very much a half marathon was so painful. I ended up walking half of them, and coming from that to like, okay, I think I do want to try and like run this for time, and dealing with run walk intervals, and they're still like great. I do them for all my other runs, like my training runs still, but just the amount of like stamina and endurance I've built up, and finally hitting this stupid goal just like goes to show, if you put in the work, you can see some good results. Who would have thought? Training works. Who would have thought? Not me. So, all that to say, I have built up so much confidence for marathon weekend, and I am just stunned that, like, I felt confident about pulling it off, but, like, because I had made it close-ish for my last half marathons, I was just nervous that something was going to happen again, you know? And after not hitting your goal, like, a couple times, like, it's not even that many times. Like, I only tried twice, and it was in the heat, and I was literally sick. I got sick after both races. So, like, clearly my body was fighting something during the race. But I don't know. It just felt so sweet, and vengeance is delicious. Revenge tastes great. Let me tell you. And not to mention, my knees did so well. My knees have been doing great. Thank you so much for asking. Like, I have to attribute, obviously I've been doing physical therapy for the past year, and up until a couple of months ago, my knees were still kind of having issues, but I've been very consistent with strength training. Generally 2 times a week, I've been doing my full body strength training. Sometimes I've only gotten 1 in. And last week before the race, I didn't do my second strength training because I had a rest day before the race, but I think the consistency with that has made a huge difference, because with the unevenness of this course and the bricks, like, it was really hard on the hips, and like my other friends were saying like their hips were like dying from this, and I was like, oh, my hips are good. My hips are holding up. The knees holding up. Everybody's holding up. My quads were dying. Like, my quads were fighting for their lives, and like I was pushing through the pain on that for the last couple of miles, because they were just not used to running this fast, but also not used to running on brick. Like, the brick is what I think definitely made them sore. And my abs were really, really sore. I don't know how that happened, but yeah. All in all, I hit my goal finally, which is so, the timing of this is so funny, because I know I just recently posted my last podcast episode for Wine Dine Recap about me being frustrated and angry and sad about my half marathon goal. And then fast forward to now, where I hit it. It's like, okay, well, where do I go from here now? Like, what do I do? Like, how do I adjust my marathon goals, and kind of like, what's the next step? Which, like, I'm not jumping ahead too much. Like, I'm definitely basking in this achievement and this major accomplishment for me. And I'm not trying to run to the next goal necessarily. I mean, obviously we have marathon weekend coming up. So like, yes, I am thinking about my marathon goal. But as far as other PRs, I'm just sitting in this one right now, and we'll see. I got so many comments and DMs though, like, all right, sub 2 is the next one. Sub 2. Which, that is basically the next milestone for me that I think I would want to hit for the half marathon. I don't know when that would be or when I would aim for that. I probably at some point later next year, like not anytime soon, but this definitely gave me a lot more confidence, and I feel all of my hard work coming to fruition and like achieving these goals. So I'm just very excited for marathon weekend. Of course, it's going to be on much more tired legs. We are not going to have fresh legs for the marathon, the big kahuna. So that is something to keep in mind. We don't know the weather for marathon weekend yet, and anything can happen on race weekend. I'm crossing my fingers and speaking into existence and manifesting that I am wonderfully healthy and feeling great, and that the weather is beautiful and perfect, and that the race day goes great. And that's about all we can do as far as manifesting goes. But everyone do your weather dance and make it nice and cool for the marathon. Please don't make it hot. Please don't make it hot. Knock on wood, knock on wood, knock on wood, knock on wood, knock on wood. I just like knocked on 7 different things on my desk. But anyway, yeah. So that was my OUC half marathon race recap. I definitely blabbered on a lot of details, but I don't know. I felt really, really good and strong. And like even as I was running the race, I definitely surprised myself that I was able to hold a much faster pace than I was anticipating. Like I had planned the splits out starting at like the 9:55 range, dropping down to the fastest pace was I was putting at the end was like 9:35 to give me that average of like the 9:46 to get about a 2:07 finish. And looking down at my watch, when I hit like the 9:15 mile, I was like, huh? What do you mean I'm running that and I feel okay? Huh? So that was just like exciting, and I just felt really good. Like it was a great race. That is exactly how a PR race should feel, and I'm just really, really proud of it. So I will not be shutting up about it anytime soon. I did plug it into the Macmillan the Macmillan calculator, which kind of tells you based off of your current race time what your projected time for other distances would be. So for example, I plug in a marathon goal, which I haven't fully decided on yet. I definitely want a PR, which is I think a PR is completely manageable and expected because my time from the marathon this year was 5:33. I don't remember the seconds, but it was 5:33, 5 hours, 5.5 hours. I was out there for 26.6 miles because of the extra mileage. But a PR, I think, is absolutely in the bag. Obviously, yeah, it's in the bag. But I originally had wanted to just go sub 5 hours. So I think that's, I don't remember what average pace that is. That's like what, 11-minute pace? I can't remember. And then I was kind of thinking, well, what if I did 4:45? And then what if I shoot for 4:30? So I plugged in Macmillan and put in all of the times. And so for a projected 4:30 marathon, which Macmillan is usually pretty generous with the timing about marathons, the equivalent half marathon time that you would essentially need to have the fitness for that was 2:08:18, an average of 9:48 per mile. And that is kind of like, according to Macmillan, which again, this is a little bit generous for the marathon, that would kind of equate to a projected 4:30 marathon, which would be an average of 10:18 per mile. So I don't know. I would honestly love to knock an hour off of my marathon time, truthfully. And like saying that out loud is kind of crazy, but like you and me, we're close. You listening to this podcast right now, you have already listened to me blabber on for so long already. If you're still listening to this episode, then you know I don't hold back about all the juicy details, and I'm very open about my goals. Because even if I don't hit them, like, I don't know, I like to share those as well, because if we're only showing the highs and never the lows, that's not as relatable. But And that's also just not realistic. Like, let's be real. So in order to knock an hour off, I hit 5:33. I would have to hit sub 4:33, which McMillan says that the half equivalent for a 4:30 marathon would be a 2:08, and I ran a 2:05. So I plugged in 2:05:30, my half marathon time, to McMillan to kind of map that out of the race equivalent. And it plugged in a 4:24 marathon, which would be an average of 10:05 per mile. But like, again, we all think that McMillan is a little bit generous for projected marathon times. But I don't know if it's too far off. So I think a 4:24 would be an aggressive goal. That would be an aggressive goal for me. 10:05 per mile? Especially when we're probably not running 26.2 miles. We're probably running around 26.6. Because again, the added weaving through the crowds, just on the course when we run through the parks, like you just pick up a little bit of extra miles. Like you are not going to be running 26.2. My first marathon, I tracked 27 miles, which was crazy. And I was not very good about tangents. And it was my first marathon, and we like made a bathroom stop. And so there were like extra little side quests happening. And I was very, very proactive about that this time around for my second marathon, trying to always run the tangents, not adding in the little extra distances, because it does add up. Because if you're adding an extra mile onto the marathon for no reason, like that's just pain. And especially if we're going for time here, which everyone likes to give people crap about going for time at Run Disney, but like that is fun for me. That is how I make the most of my Run Disney race. I love the characters. I love running through the parks. I still get my selfies. I still get my photos. I still do character stops. Like, I can also PR though. You see what I'm saying? So, yeah. I don't know. My new A goal for the marathon, I don't know. It was a 4:45. A 4:30 seemed like really far on the horizon, but now after running this half marathon, the 4:30 doesn't seem quite as out of reach now, especially with where my fitness is at. So, I don't know. I'm feeling really good. I might try and shoot for the 4:30. Again, I really would love to knock an hour off. So that's a 4:33. A sub 4:33. I mapped it out on my splits in Excel as if I was running 26.6 miles because again, we're not running 26.2. We are not doing that. We are running more than that. So trying to plan ahead like for the timing of it means that you have to run ever so slightly faster than what your 26.2 time goal would be, if that makes sense. So yeah. We shall see. I just don't know because I know in my marathon pace miles that I've been doing during training, I've been doing between a 10 and 10:30. Sometimes it's to 10:45 because I think 10:45 was like initially my goal pace. But I think I can push it a little bit faster. I did do a couple of marathon pace miles at that like 10:15 range, which is about where I would want to be. And I felt okay. Like it definitely felt like a push. But on my 18 miler I did recently, which the 18 miler was kind of horrible, but it was just due to Shark Week and me feeling awful. I was still able to hold about a 10:17-ish average pace on my marathon pace miles, where I kind of snuck them into the workout. My coach had me, if I was feeling okay, to try doing them every other mile after warm up. So I didn't do consecutive miles at that pace, but I did try out that as my marathon pace. So, and it felt okay. Like I was still fighting for my life, but just due to hormonal reasons. And I don't know, like, could that be my pace? I just don't know. I don't know. Anything can happen on race day. And like, who knows? Maybe I'll get a second win like I did during the OUC half marathon and just like pick it up for a couple of the miles faster than I anticipate. maybe I need to go slower. Like, I don't know. So all I know is I would like to be out there for less time. I don't want to be out there for 5.5 hours. I've done that. I did it. Bought the t-shirt. Got the picture. We did it. Now I would like to be faster. So, yeah. All of that to say, there was a medal reveal for Springtime Surprise Weekend. And I am signed up for the 10K, and Hercules is on the 10K medal. I like it. I don't know exactly what I was expecting, but I like the medal. I think it's cool. I think they could have gone a little bit more lightning bolty themed. I don't know. The medal's cute. Like, I'm still excited for the 10K. Okay, let's wrap up this episode. By the numbers, we've got our countdowns. The Dopey Challenge 2025 is in 29 days. Red alert, people. 29 days. Princess is in 2 months and 10 days from when I'm recording this. And Springtime is in 3 months and 24 days. And I've got my peak week of training next week. So this week, I think I'm hitting like over 50 miles again. I've got lots of running happening. And then next week will be peak week. And then it's taper time. Holy crap. That's kind of crazy. Oh my gosh, you guys, I got through this episode without crying. Isn't that crazy? I got through it without crying. I was joking with my friends that I should rename this podcast to Running on Tears. Because I just cry every episode. And it's crazy that this was my best race and like my proudest PR, I think. And I felt so good about it. Like, I really thought that I would be out here just sobbing. But I don't know. I feel like I've kind of sat with that emotion a little bit for the past few days and shed some tears already. So, tears of joy. So I feel like, I don't know, they had their moment, you know? Wow. Proud of myself for that one. Thank you so much for listening. I will see you next episode. Get moving.